I called up the harbour authority in Falmouth. Harbour authority said, "Where have you come from?" And I said, "Well, I've actually come from Walton-on-the Naze. That was the last port of call." And so they said, "Oh, fair enough." And they didn't bother me after that.
John's getting comfortable at the moment. He's on his boat, isolating in Essex. His wife and the whole family have got COVID at the moment.
I'm upside down, that can't be right.
Upside down. No, you're upside down, John. Turn the camera around, that's it. Well done. Hello, I'm Bob Aylott, founder of My Classic Boat channel. Today we've got a story about a chap called John Passmore. He's a sailor, former journalist, and last year, to avoid COVID-19 in the lockdown, that's the first lockdown, he sailed away to the mid-Atlantic. He was away for 42 days, travelled over 3,500 miles, and returned to write a book all about it. We've got a first exclusive story from John, who's based on the East Coast. So, make yourself comfortable, settle down, and get ready for a roller coaster adventure with John Passmore. John, where are you at the moment?
I'm in Titchmarsh Marina in Walton-on-the Naze.
Okay.
I came in yesterday. I've been anchored out in Hamford Water for about a month, and I ran out of charcoal. I used up the last bit on Monday night, and it's 5 degrees below out there, so I've had 48 kilos of charcoal delivered.
Okay, you're there for the long haul, are you?
Well, I think I might just as well stay here for a few days, because I've got to sort out this COVID thing, and it's and I've got, last night I had the charcoal heater and the fan heater running both at the same time, and it was lovely.
So tell me about what happened back last year.
Right.
We all went into lockdown. Where did you go and what did you do?
Well, in March last year, I was in Lowestoft, and I was monitoring the Ocean Cruising Club's Facebook group, and this COVID thing was going around the world, and I was hearing that people in the South Pacific, were being told to isolate, and Spanish marinas were locking down, and the French were really getting a handle on this. They had outlawed all forms of pleasure boating. Bridges were closing, lock gates wouldn't open for boats. And I thought, crikey, there's a bridge between me and the open sea. And if the harbour master won't open the bridge, I'll be stuck here for 3 months. So that very day, I sort of panicked, and I jumped. I just went. And I got out into the marina on the other side, and I thought, well, where am I going to go now? And the first thought was I'd go up to the Orkneys or the Shetlands. There are lots of nice little coves up there where you can isolate yourself. And then I heard on the radio that the local authority up there didn't want a whole lot of visitors coming and overwhelming their hospitals and what have you. So I thought, well, I can see the sense in that. So where am I going to go? And I thought, well, the only thing I can do is just get out of territorial waters altogether. because if I'm 12 miles offshore, then nobody can touch me. Now, it was a bit early and I hadn't done any preparation. I didn't have enough food or anything. So I came down to Walton backwaters, which is my favorite little spot. And I started amassing food. And I filled the boat with 245,000 calories. We counted them. Okay. With the help from my wife and my son, who's a medical student. Filled the boat with mayonnaise and Nutella and anything that was full of calories. Because I didn't want to starve. And I did what preparations I could. I checked the rig and things like that. I would have liked to have had a new mainsail because mine was very tired. I did what I could. And then in mid-April, I set off, being very careful to sanitize my hands after I filled up with water and what have you. And I went out into the out of territorial waters. Now, the obvious thing to do would be to go down through the Dover Strait and English Channel. But, of course, the Dover Strait is only 22 miles wide. Everybody knows that. Now, 12 miles of that is French territorial waters and 12 miles is English territorial waters. So there's got an overlap. So basically, you can't get through without being arrested by the French or chased off by the British Border Force. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, the only other way out is to go up and over the top of the Shetlands. And so I went up the North Sea, over the top of the Shetlands, down the Atlantic. And, of course, on the way is Rockall. So I thought, well, I'll go and look at Rockall because I've never seen it. And when I did see it, it was just wonderful because I arrived at dawn with the most amazing dawn coming up behind the rock. And I took a picture of it, and you can see it on my blog. In fact, I used it for the cover of the book. And from there, I went on down, and the plan was to basically lose myself for 3 months. And I got down to the Azores very, very quickly, just as ridiculous because, I didn't need to get there quickly. I was just trying to kill time. But I got there very quickly. We had a series of gales while everybody in the UK was having wonderful weather in May. I had a series of gales. And 400 miles short of the Azores, I completely blew out the very tired old mainsail. It just shredded. I woke up one night and there just wasn't much of it left. There was a thing about the size of a bed sheet flying from the leech line behind the boat. And, I looked at this, I thought, I can't sew you back together. I mean, there just wouldn't be enough sailmakers thread in the whole world to put that sail back together. So I took it off and put up the trysail. And then I sailed to within a couple of miles of Graciosa in the Azores and started ringing up and organizing a new sail. Now, there wasn't much point in trying to get it delivered to the Azores because it would probably just sit in customs for months. So I could be back in Falmouth in 2 weeks. So I thought, well, I'll get it delivered to Falmouth. Okay. So I floated around for a couple of days talking to the people in the UK on the mobile phone signal. And then, of course, on the second day, the maritime police in Graciosa called up on the VHF and said, look, we've been watching you for 2 days with your little sort of orange sail. Do you need to be rescued? And I said, no, thank you. I don't need to be rescued. And they said, well, you can't come in. I said, well, I don't want to come in. I just want to use your mobile phone signal. And they were very good about it. And they said, well, come back when things are better. And I promised I would. And then I set off to come home again with the trysail. And I must say, I absolutely adore the trysail. It's a sail that most people never get to use except in dire emergencies. But it's wonderful. It sets beautifully. And you can sail very, very close to the wind with it because you can haul it right to weather, just a couple of inches off the center line. And with a decent breeze, my word, the boat goes. And the other lovely thing about it is you don't have to worry about reefing it because it's already reefed. You can just sort of set and forget. Okay. And so we came back and on the way back, I started running out of water because I had a leaky water tank. And so I started trying to catch some. I caught a bit of it, but I was still pretty short of water on the way back. I think I arrived back with 5 liters left or something like that. But I did have a fair bit of beer left, so the beer saved me. The other problem on the way back was that I had a gas leak. And for about a week, 10 days or something, I was eating cold food. And I started experimenting with all the things you could have with cold food. So I don't eat meat, which was a good thing because you wouldn't want to eat cold stewed steak. But I did have a lot of sardines, had 49 cans of sardines when I started, and some tuna. And so I started making sardine and tuna salad with beans and sultanas and peanuts and curry powder and all sorts of things I experimented with. I even tried Nutella in sardine salad, and I would not recommend it. But somebody's got to try these things, haven't they? And I arrived back 42 days after leaving Walton, and lockdown was just coming to an end. People were going out for socially distanced picnics and things like that. And it was as if, I just missed the whole thing.
I mean, it was 42 days that you were away at sea on your own. The highlights, what is Rockall like? How was it like when you were approaching Rockall?
Well, first thing was that you know exactly where you are and where it is nowadays with GPS. Of course, finding Rockall in the old days with astro navigation must have been a little bit more difficult. But, I didn't have to worry. I knew exactly where I was and where it was, and I just woke up in the morning. There was this tiny little speck. My first thought was that it was a bit like looking at a photograph on somebody else's phone that has got a bit of dirt on the screen, because there was this tiny little speck and just an empty seascape. And we got closer, and the little speck got bigger and bigger and bigger. And there is a reef on the eastern side, so you've got to be a bit careful of how you approach it, because this is one place you do not want to go aground. So I didn't go terribly close. I went within 2 cables of it, and that seemed to me to be very close indeed. And of course it's not. And there was just a sense of utter desolation. I don't think there can be anywhere in the world more desolate. Obviously there are places, but it just seemed so desolate. There's a light on it, and there's a little warning in the book or on the chart that the light very often isn't working, because the rock is only 17 meters high, and so the sea breaks straight over the whole thing. So I think the little lighthouse probably gets knocked off from time to time. But I just sailed past it. I didn't sail round it, because having got there, I just had this awful sort of sense that I wanted to get away from it. I was glad to have seen it, but it's not a place I wanted to hang around, not on my own.
Is it a frightening place?
Yeah, it was. It was kind of scary, because it's just so desolate. I mean, it's 250 miles out in the Atlantic. I mean, it's a long way from anywhere, and it's black and it's forbidding. And of course, with this alarming yellow dawn that had come up, it just looked so creepy, I suppose. But I'm very glad to have seen it.
And glad to get away from it.
And glad to get away from it, yeah. I went and sat in the St. Helens pool in the Scillies, anchored myself there for 3 weeks, and I got up crack of dawn, and I wrote from 6 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock in the evening, with an hour for lunch every day for 3 weeks, and finished the book. Now, didn't write it all in that time, because I'd done a bit of scribbling on the way, of course, and I could just lift that and bits out the blog and what have you. But anyway, I finished the book. So there it is. It's called Old Man's Sailing, and it's out on print, paperback and Kindle. And I am in the process of recording it for Audible. The only trouble with that is that you're halfway through a chapter recording very nicely, and suddenly a wave hits the side of the boat with a bang, or a halyard starts rattling or something, and you have to start again. But it's an experience.